Welcome students. In our last class, I already discussed the basics of literature and today I am going to start history of English literature. Our class will entirely focus on the syllabus of UPSC, and since Renaissance is the first topic mentioned prescribed in our syllabus, so we will start from there. So let's begin. And within the ambit of Renaissance, Elizabethan period, Jacobean period, metaphysical period will all these topics will also be discussed. So this lecture may be longer, a little longer, and maybe continue to 2 or 3 classes, but I will try to focus entirely on the prescription of UPSC. We will not deviate too much. So let's start. First, we will begin with what is Renaissance exactly. Renaissance means rebirth, and in general it implies cultural awakening. And Renaissance was a phenomenon that influenced the entire Europe after 1453, you can say. So, what are the causes of this cultural awakening that impacted every field of life in Europe should be discussed here. So, the main cause of Renaissance can be traced to the loss of Byzantine Empire which is known as Constantinople, loss of Constantinople to the Turks. So, this loss of Constantinople to Turks resulted in the mass exodus of the classical scholars. Actually, the loss of Byzantine Empire was the height of crusade, where Christians were categorically defeated and Ottoman Turks got the possession of Constantinople that was under Byzantine Empire earlier. This incident took place in 1453. Before the victory of Turks, many classical scholars were flourishing there. In Byzantine Empire, the environment was conducive for them, but after the loss, the environment at once became hostile for those scholars. So they started to move away from Constantinople to other section of other countries of Europe, and their first destination was Italy, Rome, different towns of Italy. So they went there, and a new influx of classical literature influenced the life of Italy and became the cause of Renaissance, means cultural awakening. This is the most important cause, you can say, but only one cause cannot bring about such a huge difference. So other related causes were also there. So the first cause is the loss of Constantinople and the resultant exodus of the classical scholars along with their heritage in the form of pieces of literature and critical materials. They went to other parts of Europe, and the cultural awakening spread there. The other causes were cultural exchange. And if we consider this point, it implies exchange of ideas among different cultures. If we consider this point, we will find that Renaissance cannot be considered, cannot be taken as separate from the Middle Age. It was a continuation of and an improvement over the medieval period. So you can say from ages there were exchange of goods through land routes even before the loss of Constantinople, and you can say it continued for centuries. But it will be a mistake to consider that these commercial activities, trade activities only involved the exchange of goods. There were exchange of ideas as well, because the traders of different countries moved to other countries and they found something new there, and they carried those new ideas to their countries and spread there. Those ideas spread there. For example, you can say Silk Route was there from time immemorial, and the traders of India, the traders of Middle East, the traders of China and Japan, all those people were using that route. They carried their goods through those routes, and in this course they came in contact with each other. The knowledge of mathematics from India moved to Middle East, and from Middle East it might have moved to the European countries. So it was not only an exchange of goods, it was also an exchange of ideas. So all these new ideas just influenced the mind of the people in a cumulative way towards the end of the Middle Ages, and thus Renaissance was the result. So it can also be a cause. Again, other cause is also related to the loss of Constantinople, because the possession of Ottoman Turks there blocked the trade routes, land routes, and the kings of European countries began promoting their sailors to look for new sea routes or other routes, other alternative routes to the east, so that that lucrative trade can continue. One king from Portugal, Prince Henry the Navigator, was the most important figure in this field, and he promoted his sailors, and thus the Portuguese ships embarked on discovering new land routes to India. In this course, Columbus sailed for Indies, but he coincidentally reached the Caribbean island, and he is credited with discovering the America, you can say, not USA. USA is the new name. Discovering America, and so you can say the loss of Constantinople resulted in the discovery of new geographical territories. And these new geographical discoveries also resulted in the exchange of new ideas that opened the mind of the people. In fact, they came to other countries and became exposed to new ideas, and they carried those ideas along with the goods through their countries, and their life was now much more exposed to new things. Other causes were also there. Let us see. Around that time, there was a pandemic known as Black Death, and it is said that swept almost half of the population of Europe. And such a pandemic was naturally to affect the mindset of the people. They started rethinking their relationship with God, and they started to see things in a different light, with a different perspective, you can say. They started to justify the existence of God, but the idea was there why God did not save them from this calamity, and there were no answers. So they, in a way, became open to new thoughts, new ideas that were more logical, that were more based on reasoning. So they were now open to new scientific thought. This was also in a way, this pandemic shook their faith in providence and reoriented their thinking process. Again, the loss of Constantinople also affected their thinking process. Some of the thinkers were there who just promoted the humanist idea, means they wanted to create a new idea where man is in the center of all the activities. They started believing in the potential of human beings, not only in the providence. These ideas were somehow coterminous with the mental orientation following the Black Death. So, the humanist idea means a belief in human potential, a belief in human activities. Human at the center of all the activities gained momentum during that period, and that contributed to the cultural awakening, that contributed to the acceptance of the new ideas. Neoplatonism was also an idea associated with, or somehow contributing to the development of humanism, you can say. Actually, Neoplatonism was not a new idea. It was found in the classical literature, Platonism, in the form of Platonism, that has the ideal of, that believed in the ideal of a harmonious universe and the potential of human being. So, Neoplatonism that came from the classical literature also contributed to the development of this thought, and it also became one of the characteristics of a Renaissance. Apart from that, the political dispensation of England also contributed to it. You must have heard of the War of Roses. With the end of this War of Roses, Tudor dynasty came to power in England. Henry VII was the first king, followed by who established Tudor dynasty. His successor was Henry VIII, who was succeeded by his son Edward VI. Edward VI was succeeded by Mary I, and she was succeeded by Elizabeth I. Her period was 1558 to 1603. These were the Tudor rulers. Renaissance reached its zenith, its height, during the reign of Elizabeth I. So let's have a look at the developments of during the period of these kings. Henry VIII is the key figure because nothing very important happened during the reign of Henry VII except for the establishment of Tudor dynasty and the final victory in the War of Roses. Henry VIII wanted to have a son who could succeed him, and for that purpose he married 6 times, and his 6th wife could only produce for him 3 children: Edward VI, Mary, and Elizabeth. In this matter of marriage, he wanted Pope Clement to annul his first marriage with Catherine of Aragon, but Pope Clement did not agree with him. He refused to budge, and there was a breach. Henry VIII completely broke with the papal authority, papal supremacy, and established a separate church for England with himself as the head of the church. Now, he was the chief religious authority apart from being the chief political authority. And thus began the phenomenon of Reformation in England. It was a clear breach from the Roman Catholicism and the establishment of a separate church in England. Many scholars believe that it was a part of Protestant movement because it took place in that background immediately before his break with the papal authority. King Luther had already started Protestantism, and many people believe that Henry VIII was influenced by the ideas of King Luther and Erasmus and all those Protestant thinkers. But this was not so. It was a completely political move. Henry VIII did not agree with all the ideas of Luther, and even other supposedly Protestant thinkers did not necessarily wanted to break up with the papal authority. They only criticized the rampant corruption in Roman Catholicism and the sale of pardons and all those things. They were criticizing those corrupt practices, but they were not in favor of complete breaking up with that church. So it was Reformation in a different sense. Henry VIII announced the breakup with the papal authority, but at the same time he did not announce any association with the practicing Protestant religion. So the English church began to be called Anglicanism. It was different from Catholicism and Protestantism at the same time. Though in the later period, during the reign of Elizabeth and after, means during Jacobean period and Caroline period, the fundamentalism grew on this line, and there was a complete breach between the political authority and the people, means Puritan people. They wanted complete austerity, complete censorship, and they also accused king of favoring Catholicism, and the result was very unfortunate that we will see in our future course of lecture. But this was Anglicanism. This was not Protestantism in the real sense of the term. This was only a breakup from Catholicism. He was succeeded by Edward VI. But before that, we must know that with the breakup with Roman Catholicism, Henry VIII also ordered the destruction of certain monasteries that were the center of education and ecclesiastical activities. Those monasteries were devastated. Some of the properties of monasteries were sold off to the relatives and near ones of the king at throwaway prices. But this affected the mental orientation of the people, because now the nearest person to God in England was the king himself, not the Pope. Before this breakup, the situation was different. King was only the political authority, and the nearest person to God was supposedly the Pope himself. But now both the authorities were combined in one person, the king himself. So it changed the people orientation of defining the relationship with God. This theme finds expression again and again in the drama of Shakespeare and other playwrights of the period, because it was all about redefining a relationship of man with God and man with king. Any kind of political instability gave different possibilities to explore. Means, in a way, people found it rightful to depose the king who could not serve their purpose. And this is the theme found again and again in the dramas of Shakespeare, such as Macbeth, such as King Lear, Hamlet. It was a consistent theme. It became a consistent theme in the dramas of Shakespeare and other dramatists as well of the period. I am only just mentioning the name of Shakespeare only because he is in our syllabus. In The Tempest as well, the king has been deposed by his own brother. In the same way, other dramas were there. King Lear himself was deposed by his daughters. So this presented the dramatist with a new kind of theme, the move of King Henry VIII. Again, he was succeeded by Edward VI, and he had a certain kind of Protestant inclination, and so he just found an opportunity to implement Protestantism, a Puritan way of life in England during his reign, but his reign was not very long-lived, and soon he was succeeded by Mary I. She had an inclination towards Catholicism. She tried to establish Catholicism, reinstate Catholicism to its previous status, and it was opposed by many people, and finally she was succeeded by Queen Elizabeth. She found a middle path. where there will be a distinction from both Catholicism and Protestantism, and English church will be a separate church, a different church, just borrowing the best of both the schools, Catholicism and Protestantism. She found the middle path. Means she maintained the position that was adopted by her father, Henry VIII. But her successor could not maintain that status quo and succumbed to the aggressive public demand, and finally had to face the unfortunate event of 1649 that manifested itself in the form of the execution of the king himself, Charles I, the execution of Charles I. So these were the factors, political and social factors and international factors, that contributed to the emergence of the coming of Renaissance and Reformation in England. So, what was the status of literature during that period? Yeah, in this course, we must also not forget that when people became open to new scientific invention, they had to cope with the new announcement by Copernicus that the universe is not geocentric, it is rather heliocentric. It was a kind of astronomical revolution. People earlier believed that the Earth was at the center of the universe, but the Copernican idea changed that concept, changed that belief, and he spent his life to establish that fact that Earth is not, rather the sun is at the center of the universe. This contradiction, this idea of decentering the universe can be found repeatedly in the poems of John Donne. When we will go through that text, we will just find that position of the poet, that he is talking about a decentered universe. Means this type of situation also created a kind of dilemma in the mind of people. They were not able to decide whether they should follow the age-old beliefs, religious beliefs, or they should just accept the new scientific invention and discoveries. So they were caught in a kind of dilemma, and John Donne mainly, who is known as the master, the founder of Metaphysical School of Poetry, was just very adroit at using these contradictions as presenting a kind of contradictions of human life in his poems. So you have to, I have already mentioned in my first class that we have to focus on all these non-literary aspects of the literature and not so much on the literary aspects. So I am focusing so much on all the political, social and cultural aspects that contributed to the bringing about of the phenomenon of Renaissance and Reformation. And in my next class, I'll discuss how all these socio-political and cultural events contributed to the development of literature in England during that period. So I hope this lecture must have been very convincing for you, and it will help you prepare your subject. So enjoy your study, like the video if you liked it really, and subscribe the channel. Thank you.